Hey YouTube, Joyboy here. So, today I want to talk about the Underworld Emperor drug Peclo, and why he might be the world's most powerful bounty hunter. But before we get into the topic of the video today, I want to let you guys know again about my Discord. If you want to know what it is, if you already know what it is, check out the link in the description. But anyway guys, I made a video about the Underworld Emperors recently and what it is that they might do in Whole Cake Island, and I briefly mentioned my thoughts on drug Peclo. However, I cut this bit of evidence from the video because I didn't think it was relevant to what I wanted to accomplish in that one, but I didn't expect so many people to disagree with my thoughts, so I decided to go further in depth here. I really think that drug Peclo could be an assassin, a kidnapper, and the world's most powerful bounty hunter. And I don't mean powerful in terms of individual strength, although that might be true. I mean powerful in the sense that he makes the most money of anyone else bounty hunting. But anyway, let's start off with generalities. And so what seems to be clear between all the Underworld Emperors, when you're talking about Stussy, Dufeld, Morgans, as well as Giberson and Umid, it's clear that they make a lot of money, and that's what makes them Underworld Emperors. Dufeld is a loan shark, Stussy dealt with prostitutes. Giberson stores things, and Umid ships things. So the very same should be true of drug Peclo. He should make a ton of money, just like everyone else, but his role as, quote, the mortician is a lot less clear. And so as we talked about previously, a mortician or an undertaker is a funeral director, a professional involved in the business of funeral rites. These tasks often include embalming and burial and cremation of the dead, as well as the planning and arrangement of the actual funeral ceremony. So I assume with all the Underworld Emperors, their pasts are really bloody. The same should apply to drug Peclo, but none of them have quite the implication of death like drug Peclo does. A loan shark deals in the exchange of money, but it seems as though drug Peclo deals in the exchange of death, and in some way deals with dead bodies. Again, for profit. So I saw in the comment section to my Underworld Emperors video that many people think that drug Peclo might have some connections to drugs themselves. And this could definitely be the case. But I think that the only evidence which supports this is his name, drug Peclo. And so I am just unsure if his name is really relevant or not. Like, we don't look at Dufeld, find some meaning in Dufeld, and then give that information or add that as information or clues to what he might do in the underworld. We don't need to look any further than his title to know what he does. He is a loan shark. The same applies to all the other Underworld Emperors. Again, their title contain all the information relevant to figure out what it is that they do. So I'm just assuming that drug Peclo's name is drug Peclo. The guy had some seriously sadistic parents who named him Drug, and that is all that there is to find here. At the very least, I do think it would be strange for one character to essentially have two nicknames, as the Mortician and, quote, drug Peclo. And then so going back to his title as the Mortician, as the Director of Funerals, there's also kanji on his shoulder for death. He carries around a scythe, just like the Grim Reaper. I think that drug Peclo kills people for profit. And I argued in my last video that that would make him some kind of assassin. But there's a little bit more which may substantiate my opinion about him and give him other titles aside from assassin, maybe such as kidnapper or bounty hunter. And also keep in mind that there's not a whole lot of difference between being an assassin and being a bounty hunter. Remember, bounties read dead or alive. So in essence, an assassin is paid money for specifically killing someone. In the case of a bounty hunter, they could also get paid money for specifically killing someone. The jobs are very, very similar. The only difference I would say is that assassins will kill anyone, whereas bounty hunters would generally speaking only kill the unlawful. But I don't think that drug Peclo is a lawful bounty hunter. But I also don't think that in One Piece bounty hunters in general are very lawful. But let's move on to the next bit of evidence. And so, when looking at drug Peclo's design, there's something that sticks out to me as very strange. There's the numbers 495 written on him. Why did Oda decide to include this? What does this number mean? Honestly speaking, this number could represent pretty much anything, but when I first see numbers like this, my first reaction is to, as stupid as this may sound, go and check out the chapter, which relates to the number. So in this case, I decided to read chapter 495 in One Piece to see if it offered anything that could be potentially interpreted as clues, and I found something. Chapter 495 was shortly before the Shibundi Archipelago arc, and was a chapter specifically devoted to Iron Mask Duval. And so if you guys don't remember, Duval was the character who looked a lot like Sanji on his poorly drawn bounty poster. And so the first thing that caught my attention is that Duval wears a mask, just the same as Drug Peclo does. And I also believe that Duval's role in the story, his job at this moment in the story, is pretty much exactly the same as Drug Peclo. And I'm wondering if there's any coincidence here. Based on what I've already argued, you will see what the parallels are, and I will explain it more in depth, but it's just really strange for Oda to have drawn 495 on Drug Peclo, and for him to share so many similarities with Duval, potentially. I do think that this is an actual clue. But anyway, Duval led the Flying Fish Gang, and was specifically known as a kidnapper. In the story, we can see him trying to capture both Kami and Hachan. So the idea here is that they would kidnap people who are worth money and then sell them off into slavery. Not necessarily a bounty hunter. And so this is a problem because I need to in some way correlate this with assassination and bounty hunting. But I think that these clues actually come a little bit later in the Shibondi Archipelago arc, where we get to meet more people who essentially have the same role as kidnapper as Duval, but their actions are more thoroughly fleshed out. And so guys, as you remember in the Shibondi Archipelago arc, there were more people that were attempting to capture Kami, and ultimately they were eventually successful. So essentially, they were doing kidnapping just the same as Duval was. But they weren't just known as kidnappers, they were also known as bounty hunters. Kidnapping was just something else they did on the side for money. I believe that in the world of One Piece, being a bounty hunter doesn't just mean going after people with bounties and then delivering them to the world government. A bounty hunter, or a bounty hunter gang, are people who specifically make money off of capturing or killing people in general. Anyone who could be possibly worth money in any possible way. And so now I want to specifically talk about Peterman, who was a character that we met in the Shibondi Archipelago arc, and I think explains how this system of bounty hunters works, and why Drug Peclo might be the kingpin of all bounty hunters. But anyway, when we met Peterman, we got an info box for him, and it is stated that he is the boss of the kidnapping team, the Hound Pets. We see that he met with two bounty hunters who had attempted to capture Straw Hat Luffy and the rest of the Straw Hat Pirates' bounties, but ultimately they failed because they were weak as hell. But they noticed that Kami was there and that Kami was a mermaid, but they were not strong enough to take her and make any money off of her. So it can be assumed that Peterman was of a higher caliber, higher tier than them, and they went to him with this information. And so Peterman cut them a deal for delivering this information to him. If he were to be successful, they get 10% of his reward. So I believe this is how the bounty hunting system works, is that you have a bunch of fodder tier bounty hunters who can defeat certain people with bounties if they are strong enough. But when it comes to the people with higher bounties, or the people that are worth money that they are unable to capture, there are even stronger bounty hunters which they go to with the information that they've discovered. Potentially these stronger people are actually going to be able to take the bounties, and they get a cut of the reward for delivering the information. So theoretically, this chain can go all the way up to the top. That as you get stronger and stronger individuals, with higher and higher bounties, you go further up the chain of the bounty hunters. So it seems pretty reasonable to me that Peterman, as the boss of the Hound Pets, I think the Hound Pets were the strongest bounty hunter group in the Shibondi Archipelago. These bounty hunters specifically went to him when they wanted to take the mermaid Kami, given that she was being protected by very, very strong pirates. But I think that Drug Peclo is the highest ranking bounty hunter in the entire world, or maybe the entire New World. He is essentially the same as Peterman and Duval, except for he is capable of taking the bounties of much stronger individuals. And that all the various bounty hunters and bounty hunter groups out there provide him with information on where to find high bounties, and he gives them a cut of the profit. I personally think that this makes a ton of sense. This is how Drug Peclo became an Underworld Emperor, and how he was able to amass such a fortune like all the other Underworld Emperors. The Mortician, the Bringer of Death. He is literally the most capable person in the world of taking the strongest people's bounties. The world's strongest bounty hunter. But anyway, that is just my thoughts. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree or disagree, and why. Like the video if you like the video, dislike the video if you dislike the video. Make sure to check out links for Discord and Patreon in the description. Huge thanks to all of my Patreons who allow me, or better allow me, to create content for your guys' enjoyments. Subscribe if you haven't, and as always guys, have a wonderful day.